In churches today, you hear people talk like this. You hear it from TV preachers, you hear it from reading books, and it seems like it's sweeping across our churches today. And it's that message that feels very good to us. And hear it over and over and over. And here is the lie that you're being told. It's that God wants you happy. That God has good things in store for you. That God wants you to enjoy your life. That God wants to bless you. And God wants your life to prosper in every single way. And the bottom line is that God wants you happy. This is a very dangerous theology that is being talked about, because what it basically does, it elevates God to serving us, instead of what is the truth is that we are here to serve God. I would love to tell you that when you come to Christ, that from that point forward, when you become saved, that God wants to bless your life, that everything is going to be great, and everything that you ever asked for, you're going to receive, and that God's going to bless your life beyond compare at that day of salvation, and everything will work out all right. The problem is this, is that when we do that, we reduce God to more or less a cosmic Coke machine, where if I just stick a couple quarters in, a couple coins in, and if I just push the right button, say the right prayers, that God is going to deliver for me. And there's a problem if I do all just the right things and God wants me happy, and if God doesn't deliver, then God has failed me. Because in essence, God wants me happy. And if I'm not happy, God didn't deliver for me. And the reality is that God wants me happy all the time is just not true. And this morning I want to share with you some things, 3 different things that God doesn't want you happy in. The first one is this. God never wants you happy when it will cause you to sin. 1 Peter 1 and verse number 15, sums it up like this. He says, "But he who called you is holy, therefore be ye holy." You see, in God's spiritual economy, our happiness is never the bottom line. God doesn't call us to be happy. God calls us to be holy. And God never calls us to sacrifice His standards of living, His standards of holiness in the name of happiness. God says, I don't want you happy if it's going to cause you to sin. Your character and your holiness is much more than your happiness. And that's what God calls us to. God doesn't say, be ye happy, for I am happy. He says, be ye holy, for I am holy. And when it comes down to it, when it's between your happiness and your holiness, God never settles for your happiness, but always wants you to be holy as He is holy. Another time that God will not want you happy is when it's driven by circumstances. Where does that word happy come from? Well, it comes from the root word happenstance, where we are happy about the situations around us. We're happy when things are going good. We're happy when things are going great. When it seems like everything we do is just working out beautifully. But what happens when the happenings around you are not right? What happens when everything around you seems to fail and seems to be crumbling down, and you're just not happy? Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 14 says this, "When good times are good, be happy. Enjoy it. Have a blast. Embrace it." Those are the times in life where we just cannot contain ourselves. We're happy beyond belief. When good things are going great, we're happy as can be, and we're thanking God. We're blessing God for everything that's happening in our life. But the truth is this. The Bible also says in that verse, "But when times are bad, consider." And here's what God wants us to consider. That God has made the one as well as the other. God has made the good times, and God has made the bad times. God doesn't want you to be happy when it's based on your happenings or your circumstances. God wants us to have this joy that He's talking about that's not dictated about what's happening around us. You see, when things are happening around us today, this will make me happy, that will make me happy, maybe these things will make me happy, and maybe this will make me happy. And in the pursuit of all this happiness, amongst all these things that are happening in my life, in actuality, we are some of the most blessed people in all the world. You know, when you look at us compared to the rest of the world, you know, not only do we have a house, but a lot of us have a house for our cars, a garage. We are some of the richest people in the world, and yet we're the most discontented. And we are the most miserable people anywhere, and we are not satisfied with the things of in our lives. You know, you think about it, how can the Apostle Paul say this? I have learned the secret of being content in each and every situation. What is he saying? When the good times are good, when the bad times are bad, I've realized that they both come from God. How can the Apostle Paul say he can be content in every situation? And he says this, whether I am fed or whether I am hungry, whether I am living with plenty or in want. And he says this, I can do everything through Christ who strengthens me. You know, Paul learned that happiness is not based on feelings. Happiness is not based on the things that are going around him, because to be honest, Paul was in some of the most crummiest situations in his life. He was stoned, thrown in prison. They wanted him dead, and he said, no matter what, I am still happy through it all, because it's not based on his circumstances. It's based on one thing. He knew who Jesus Christ was. And the last thing this morning, that God, you know, really doesn't want you happy, and He doesn't want you happy as much as he wants you blessed. You know, a lot of times we underestimate God and the blessings of God, and we think that we need all these material things that'll make us happy, and that's, you know, basically God is blessing us at that time. You know, if we think that the material things of God are what blesses us, then we've underestimated the blessings of God. You know, just the fact that you woke up this morning is a blessing from God. Just the fact that you have another day to serve Him is a blessing from God. And we are some of the most blessed people in the world. And God doesn't want you happy, because happiness it only lasts a temporary, as much as He wants you blessed. And I hope you have a blessed day today. And I hope you understand this, that God wants your life. And God didn't promise us a bed of roses when we get saved, but He did promise us this, that no matter what we go through, no matter what temptation that we face today, God has given us a way out, and that with God, all things are possible. And we can do immeasurably more than we can ever think or imagine. Have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow.